name is Keith Andrew, and you're watching the Keith Andrew Network. It is episode 759. That's right, 759. I'm here with two of the best book authors you're ever going to meet. I'm here with Pat White and J.R.Fortin. It's an honor and privilege to have both of you as a guest, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
No, the honor is all mine. For people who want to know what my talk show is about, whole point of my talk show is to show people that even with having a learning disability, I can still amount to something. And at the same time, I'm able to turn myself into an example for people out there dealing with any types of learning disabilities and disabilities to never give up and prove people wrong. Prove to them that labels do not dictate who you are and who you're going to be. To prove to them, it can stand out to something. So that being said, 26 minutes of your time, half hour if you have to go over that mark. But the first question I want to ask both of you, and actually, Pat, I'm going to ask you this because we talked about it off the air. First off, thank you for your service. And what were some of your greatest memories?
Thanks for your support. I served my country for 20 years. The first 16 were in the Marines, and I finished my last 4 in the Air Force. And there were a lot. Of course, one being I met my husband, married my husband. But I got to do a lot. I got to travel a lot. I fast roped out of a helicopter. I met a Navajo code talker. I helped build houses for an Indian reservation. Did a lot of good things.
You know, it's funny. What about this whole stereotype about, women shouldn't serve in the Army? For me personally, it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. You should serve if that's what you want to do. And have you broke that stereotype?
You just have to. I remember when I was in boot camp, and all our drill instructors were female, but when you had different classes, some of them were male. And the one man said to us, he said, "You're going to have to work twice as hard just because you're a female to prove yourself." But anybody, like my book, it talks about, women can do anything. You just have to work hard and believe in yourself.
No, I agree. And, if you kind of look at it from my point of view, because I'm on the spectrum of being retarded, because I read and learn at a middle school, high school level, I have to work twice as hard just to say, hey, I can do what you do, only it would be on a scale or back.
Right. Yes, I was also a special ed teacher for 20 years, and my son has autism. And we just always treated him like anybody else and made him do chores, made him follow rules, made him work hard.
No, absolutely. It's just what the point of life is, to be treated like everyone else.
Right.
Now, the next one I'm going to ask you, JR, as you mentioned, you are also an upcoming, having a brain fart. You are also an up-and-coming professional actor.
Yeah, that's correct. So I went from books and kind of stopped doing that like about 5 years ago and leaned into writing screenplays. And so far, 2 of my films won Gold Awards in New York. One was for Best Short, and we also got 5 awards the year previous under some big names. So that was pretty cool. I have a show on YouTube, Hearts of New England, that's running pretty successfully right now.
Oh, that's really cool. What's the name of your show?
Hearts of New England. It's based off a guy who comes back from war, but he can't escape like PTSD life because his dad runs the mafia. So no matter what he tries to do, everywhere he goes, it's just constant chaos.
Yeah, I can't imagine. And I do like your shirt. I see like that's your brand, right?
No, this is just something I've been getting all my clothes lately off Instagram sites. So especially with the stuff going on now. So I saw this on Instagram, saw it and bought it.
Yeah, it looks really nice.
Thank you.
Now, the next one I want to ask you is, you mentioned you are a director. I want to put you in a hot seat. Say hypothetically, and I asked Pat the same question, but Pat writes books. You're also a director, but same question nonetheless. if you would use me as a topic, how would you tell my story?
Like an up and coming talk show host, overcoming odds. So you can put a positive spin to anything as long as you know how to write, as long as you got the tools, you can make everything sound great. And it should, because it's inspiring what you're doing for people.
No, I appreciate it. Like I said to Pat, I would love to work with both of you if that's a possibility. A lot of people keep telling me I should write a book, and I'm like, oh, that's good. And I did write a book. It was, my brother makes fun of me for it. I wrote it back in 2012, or maybe 13. It was either 12 or 13. It was called When You Overcome Controversy, Dreams Do Come True, even if you have a learning disability. And he said to me, that's an oxymoron. You can't overcome controversy. And yet my book was filled of spelling errors. Like, give me an example I'm talking about. There's a chapter I talk about my mom. And in the book, I said my mom went to community college. And I asked Exuberous, can you proofread it? Can you make sure, read it, make sure, it's readable? And, oh, yeah, we can definitely do that for you. I got the book. So my dad's like, your mom didn't go to comedy college. She went to community college. And there's another one that says, I was born on Long Island. But it says, I rise from the island. If it was meant to be a joke, then yeah, you can have at it. But it was spelling errors, and it was really horrible. I don't know why he even did it. I guess I was jealous of my brother. It's like, oh, if he can do one, I can do one too. But unfortunately, that's what you get. Book of spelling errors, and it's god awful.
Yeah, that's not on you though. That publishing company does stuff like that. They messed up on. I published a few books through them, and they messed up on a few things. And it got to the point where so much time had passed, I was just like, you know what, whatever.
Right. That's the editor's job to catch all those things.
Yeah. Because that's
just your job to get your story out.
No, absolutely. And for me, I'm not a storyteller. I can do, if you guys want to write my book, we can ghostwrite. It's for me to say, okay, I did, for an example, the talk show. But I also want it to be our own project. So I want you to put your own spin on it too, to turn it into a story. For me, I was pretty much complaining, right? Well, this is what I did in 5th grade, and this is what I did in 6th grade. It's like, who cares? Who writes a book like that? That's more like a journal. So I am not a storyteller. But that's not my passion. My passion is what my dad says. I have diarrhea of the mouth, but I don't stop talking. I like talking. But the question I want to ask both of you is, Pat, you are a best-selling book author. What can you tell us about your book? And JR, then we got to ask you about your book.
Well, my book is called Molly the Marine. It's a children's book. It just talks about a few of the jobs that are available in the Marine Corps. But basically, it tells girls to believe in themselves, that they can do anything as long as they believe in themselves and they work hard, and people need to work together.
No, it's a real heartfelt story.
Well, you know what? I wrote it because my husband was also in the Marines, and he was always wearing a shirt or a hat that said, USMC, and people were always going up to him saying Semper Fi and thank you. And 9 times out of 10, if people saw me in something that says Marine Corps, even women, they would ask me if my husband is a Marine. And, I think in this day and age, they should stop doing that. It's time to learn that women can do anything.
No, I agree. There's times I used to work over at Walmart, and, I'm very thankful for people in the Army. It said, thank you for your service.
Oh, thank you.
Like, oh, well, you see, you're in, for an example, in the Marines. It's like, no, actually, my son's in the Marines. But, it's a conversation starter, but
right.
I do agree with what you're saying. What about you, JR?
So I'm gonna switch it up a little because, like I said, my book was like 5 years ago. So I focus primarily now on my screenplays. So my most recent screenplay is about boxing being forbidden. I'm working on it. It's called Tunnels. We're still filming it. So there's a black market for boxing because it's illegal. So they box in underground, like old subway tracks. So that's one of my big projects going on right now. And I was casted in a Batman film, an indie Batman film, playing Catwoman's dad, and in a comedy show called Coworkers, where a whole bunch of coworkers just get stuck on this island together. And you never know what that show is going to bring. My character is just a crazy guy.
No, absolutely. Now we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to ask about social media, and I'm going to ask you some more hard-hitting questions, and I'll pass it over to you guys.
Hi, it's Mimi Chen.
Hi, my name is Ellen George.
I'm Shauna Toth.
Hey guys, I'm Anastasia Edwards.
Hi, this is Jackie Nunez.
Hi, I'm Amelia Rose.
Hey guys, I'm Alexandria Denise, and you're watching Keith Andrews Show. He's doing a terrific job. Make sure you like and subscribe, and stay tuned for more awesomeness.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching the Keith Andrews Network. It is episode 759. We're back from the commercial break. First thing I want to plug is Pat. I know you're very proud of this. I'm looking forward to listening to it again. JR, you should give it a listen. Let's talk about your CD and how that came about.
Sure. I co-wrote a song called Rocky Roads. I wrote the lyric. It's available on Amazon. It came about because a friend of mine, she wrote a book about escaping human sex trafficking. And it's probably going to be a movie. And then one day I woke up and the words just came to me. I wrote the song and I sent the lyrics to her to see if she liked them. And then I contacted Chris. I had met Chris briefly. I didn't know him well at the time, and said, I wrote some lyrics. I'd like you to look at them. And after he looked at them, he said, yes, he'd like to work with me. And we worked together and we got Carla Barola to sing the song. And it's out now, available. It's been out for a year. But that was my inspiration, my friend's book, Escaping Sex Trafficking. And then since I've written 3 more.
No, that's really cool. And it's funny you should bring it up. Now that you mention that, I remember this. You guys probably heard about this cult. I think it's like somewhere upstate New York. The actress from Smallville was part of it, both of them, but Kirsten got out of it. But the one who did Chloe was a part of it. You guys know what I'm talking about?
No.
Yeah, vaguely. I read up on it, but it's so hard to know what's accurate and what's not. So I try not to read too much into it unless I can validate my sources.
It's true. Absolutely. I agree with that. What about you, JR? You have any brand new projects you want to promote? I know you're talking about your show that you've been working on.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was really cool. I got a second lead role in a film called For Bobby recently. It was filmed just a few months ago, and it was already released on Amazon Prime. It's called For Bobby, and I was pretty happy because so far it's all 5-star reviews. So that was with McGee Productions. I'm good friends with Joe McGee, the owner of that company. And then we're filming Hearts New England season 3 right now. Progressively, it's obviously hard with the stuff going on because we keep getting delayed. But we wrapped filming season 2 earlier last year, and we're about halfway done filming season 3. And I'm excited for season 2 to release because after the first season, the actors and the actresses, most of us, became really good friends. So the scenes in season 2 look so much better because we'd worked with each other for over a year. And then season 3 is going to be awesome because we started running with 3 cameras instead of 1 or 2. So a lot of the angles and continuity stuff progressively is going to look way better than the first season. So I'm excited for it to actually be released, but the editing process is a process indeed. So it takes time.
No, absolutely. It's funny because there was a company that I came across. It was called Startup, and it said if you pay $200, you can get your channel on TV, like Firefox, my Roku. And I was saying, oh, that's so cool. I can get my network on the TV down, thinking to myself, They don't even watch me on YouTube. You know, why the hell should I piss away $200? Yes, it's nice it's on TV, but they don't even know who the hell I am. But what's the next thing I want to ask you? With everything that you guys accomplish, what would your words of wisdoms for anyone out there following you who wants to follow in your footsteps of being book authors or being a singer? What would you want to tell your fans? Whoever wants to start.
I'll start. I would just tell them to never give up, to keep on trying. You have to work hard, and you have to keep other people's voices out of your head, because a lot of people are going to tell you that you can't or you shouldn't do something. And it doesn't matter what they say. As long as you want something, you have to believe in yourself and work hard.
No, I agree with you 100%. What about you, JR?
Yeah, I'm gonna say I definitely agree with that. That attitude is the right mindset, because you have to, especially now with social media, because reviews on everything. You have reviews on Amazon, Facebook, YouTube, and you're always going to have people that you could be the best at something, and you're always going to have that one person that puts like a bad review or something like that that's just going to try to eat at you. But you got to keep it in your mind that like more than likely those people have not done anything productive with their lives, especially if they have the time to do that. So you just got to keep that positive mindset and keep grinding, because you don't want to become complacent, because the second you become complacent, you won't move on. You got to always try to move forward.
No, I agree. Now, the next question, the last subject I want to talk to you guys about, then I'll pass it over to you, is social media. Can social media make you or break you? I know with a lot of politics, BS, you actually, all that bullshit, it's a politics about Facebook, it could be good if it's bad. But with everything that you guys accomplished with Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, have you felt or thought these helped you get yourself out there? And do you think it kind of has a side effect? Yes, it's great that it can get you out there, but if you look at a quarter, the quarter has two sides. One side is, oh, this is great, it's positive, I can do what I want. But on the other side, the flip side, it's kind of like you're waiting for the bottom to drop out. Have you guys ever thought about that?
Well, I know I'm on Facebook and I'm on Instagram, and I just try to keep everything positive. But I mean, it has helped me. Certain things I've posted, people have reached out to me, where can they get my book or my music? But I just stay neutral. I don't post anything political. I don't post hate things. I just try and keep it all positive and try to encourage others, and it helps encourage me.
No, absolutely. What about you, JR?
Yeah, she's definitely right on the staying positive aspect, because you'll notice you'll lose followers, you'll lose like friends on your feed. You always want to stay away from politics and negativity on any sort of social media, especially if you're trying to brand yourself. And I would say Facebook has had a huge impact for me, because like getting roles, a lot of indie films, you end up getting big roles because people have stuff happen on the way to set. People don't make it there. So I've gotten a lot of really good roles. And sometimes it's been because I had a regular role, but I got a bigger role because someone else didn't end up showing or something like that, or stuff comes up and people reach out to you in the middle of the night because I see you're posting about acting. Well, I know an actor, and then boom, all of a sudden you find yourself in another movie. Because I started in 2016, I started acting, and I've already been in over 30 movies, and I think 26 of them right now are on IMDb. I'm just waiting for the rest of the directors to put those films on that haven't yet. And some of them never will, but it's still cool to make those connections and to meet those people.
No, absolutely. Now, the last one I want to ask you is, what are some of your favorite websites? I was thinking before I did the interview, I always ask about social media, but I want to know the very first moment and the very first website that you used. Was it beneficial, or did you think, you know what, I found something better? And Pat, I will start. Actually, RJ, JR, I became as part of the show with disabilities, right? I tried so hard to hide it, but whatever. JR, I will start with you. What was the very first website you ever used, and was it a benefit or was it a learning experience?
So the first one I want to say was MySpace, but that was like before I did anything with marketing. But I have to say that the best experience I've had marketing wise has been through Facebook, but morely for exposure. The best website for like good gigs acting wise for me has been a website called Backstage. That's my favorite website to find acting gigs now. But I do get a lot of acting gigs through Facebook as well.
No, absolutely. I heard of Backstage. The only thing I don't like about it is you have to pay, but I would only use it for networking. But can you network with people, or is it just you're looking for work?
No, you can do both. You can post I post positions on there, like if I need an actor and actress for people to apply to, and then I've applied to a lot. Like a lot of my bigger roles have come off of that website because they have you send in an audition, and then you hear back usually within a few days.
Oh, that's really cool. Well, with everything going on, I'm kind of short on money, but I would definitely put that on my things to do list. What about you, Pat?
I would say the same thing. I don't know any particular website that I go on. I try all different things for different information. But like I said, I use Facebook, I use Instagram a lot, and I've gotten people that have reached out to me for my book and or my music, and that's how we got our singer for our song. I said, hey, Chris, listen to her. So it does work. People are watching you and listening to you. They really are, whether they say it or not.
No, absolutely. Now, the last question for both of you is actually look at my list for this one, how to phrase it right. Actually, I don't need a list. How can people follow you on social media, and how can they get in touch with you?
So they can go to Main Event Films. That's the film company I own, and shoot me a message on there. They can find me on Backstage if they're a director. They can find me on Facebook as J.R.Fortin because I have an actor modeling page. Instagram, I'm J.R.Fortin. So everything I do is under JR. So sometimes it's funny because people will be like, Justin, I can't find you. And I'm like typing JR, and then their search engine blows up.
It's funny to mention that. I was waiting for JR to pop up on the screen, and then I saw Justin. Like, who the hell is Justin? What about you, Pat?
On Facebook, I'm listed as Pat Bartleson White, and on Instagram, I'm under patwhitewrites. And also, I'll have a website, patwhitewrites.com. And my book and my song and my book are both available on Amazon.
Yeah, congrats. Now, it's the last 2 minutes with the show. Was there anything you guys want to talk about? Anything you want to promote real fast? Any funny stories wrapping up the show?
Go
ahead.
I was just going to say how you were saying, Keith, about, perseverance and keep on trying. And that's how I ended up in the Marines. I originally went down to the recruiter, the Air Force recruiter. I was going to join the Air Force. I was going to college, working full time. And a friend of mine was in the Marines. And after I went to the recruiter, the Air Force recruiter, the next day he said to me, oh, it's a good thing you're joining the Air Force. You could never do what we do. I said, oh, really? I said, you get me that recruiter's number. So they were right across the street from where I worked. I went over. It was a Thursday. Tuesday after work, I went down and took my ASVAB, the test to get into the military. The very next day on Wednesday, I had my physical and I got sworn in, all because somebody said I couldn't do it.
No, I agree. There's a person who gave me a video on Celeb VM. Her name was, are you guys like professional wrestling?
No.
Well, there's a wrestler named Medusa, and she says she doesn't take no for an answer. And for me, I'm like a dog with a bone. So if someone says, no, you can't do this, I find, some people say I'm very vindictive, of that I will find a way to make that no into a yes. I will nag you, or I will find other ways to say, you know what, I will prove you wrong. And JR, what about you?
So the first ever time, it was crazy because I'd never done any acting thing aside from I had signed up for drama in high school at one point, but then I never followed through with it. So one night I'm strolling on my phone and there's auditions for this movie in Berlin, New Hampshire. And I looked at my wife and I told her, I'm like, I think I'm going to go audition for this. And like, she's like, really? Because I've never done anything to do with acting before. So we get there. I go in, I do my audition, I leave, and I'm nervous because I think I totally tanked it. I thought that, and then I'm halfway home from Berlin to Maine, and I get a phone call, and it's the director, and they let me know that I got a role in that film. And since then, I've been doing this like nonstop. So it's been an awesome ride.
No, absolutely. Now, my last question for you, wrapping up because we're going over our limit. When I first approached you guys to be a guest on my talk show, I want you to be brutally honest. What was your first reaction? What made you say yes? And would you recommend it to other people? And JR, I will start with you.
I would definitely say yes, because it is inspiring. Because my mom, I grew up with a mom who literally worked 7 days a week for 7 years of her life. And she was working as a special ed teacher. So there was absolutely no way that you would have got a no from me.
What about you, Pat?
I was definitely yes. I've been following you since I saw your interview with Alex Zewak. I was very impressed. And I was a special ed teacher for 20 years. My son has special needs, so yes.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. Now, I do have a couple questions for you guys off the air. But wrapping up, it was a real honor and privilege having you as a guest.